right? We all know subject is very much interesting, which is very much practical, applicable in day-to-day life. Everywhere in your corporate life you need to think of those facts. The point is that in this particular subject we are discussing about Indian ethos and ethics. So when we say that Indian ethics, or ethics for that matter, or business ethics for that matter, we all have to understand. I don't want to get back to the basics again. You all know what do you mean by ethics, what is the basics, what is the formation of ethics, from where the word ethics comes. You all know all those things. Considering that, I will go ahead with the discussions, and we are discussing in unit number 3, and it is, we have already discussed few points of your unit number 3, that is what do you mean by business ethics, what are the characteristics of business ethics. We have also discussed about types of business ethics, and we have also discussed about the importance of business ethics. So half of the unit is already discussed by us in the previous two sessions. Then we have talked about what are the 3 C's of business ethics, that is how to comply on the business ethics, how to contribute uh, better, to create a better environment, business environment, by following a proper business ethics in your work culture. We also have learned about how to handle consequences. We have also discussed about what do you mean by consequences, and how the ethics has a relationship with the consequences, right? See, consequences, it is always said that companies are made and companies are destroyed by the human beings only, right? So good employees, or moral employees, or the ethical employees can build a better company, a better group of people working towards a common goal, right? So when you talk about consequences, as company is always a group of people, you will always have either or kind of consequences in your profile. कुछ ना कुछ तो होता रहेगा, right? लोग एक साथ रहेंगे तो they will have consequences, they will have difference of opinions, they will have arguments, they will have constructive criticism, destructive criticism as well, they will have internal politics among them. So consequences will always fall in your workplace. And one of the important aspect of business ethics is it helps you to reduce and resolve your consequences, because if you are there in the business, you will have consequences. You will have consequences with all the kind of your stakeholders, not only in employees. You may have consequences with your suppliers, governments, your your customers always will have consequences with the companies. जाते हैं ना हम, मोबाइल परचेस किया, कुछ हो गया, तुरंत चले जाते हैं हम कंपनी के स्टोर में, राइट, वारंटी गारंटी के लिए. So business ethics is very much important in order to understand consequences, resolve those consequences. And if you really want to create a good ethical atmosphere in your business, you have to comply so many things. You have to comply on rules, regulations, expectations, and all. So we were discussing about that particular point, and I just tried to take you all in the flow of discussion. कहाँ पे थे हम, right? We have discussed about these things. What are the types of business ethics? Then we have discussed about these 3 things: transactional ethics, participatory ethics, recognizational ethics, right? ये भी हमने discuss किया है. Then today we will talk about the factors that influences the ethics, right? Can anyone tell me what are the factors you think that influences business ethics? Business ethics in the sense, business ethics in the sense, in business you will have 3 types of ethics: individual ethics, corporate ethics, managerial ethics, right? Individual ethics, corporate ethics, that is organizational ethics; managerial ethics, that is you as a manager follows, or you follows those ethics, or you practices those ethics while you are managing things in the organization. Individual ethics comes under when you behave yourself in the organization. जब आप खुद के लिए खुद खुद अपना कुछ डिसीजन लेते हो, खुद अपना कुछ बिहेवियर रिफ्लेक्ट करते हो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, that comes your, that times you can talk about individual ethics. So when you talk about the factors influencing business ethics, what do you think can be factors affecting your these 3 kind of things? What are the factors affecting individual ethics? What are the factors affecting managerial ethics? What are the factors affecting organizational ethics? Can you tell me? What do you think? What can affect your own ethics? इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन? आपके एथिक्स पे किस चीज का इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है? What do you think? What are the factors affecting your ethics? Individual standards and values. What do you mean by that? Do you think that something such kind of thing can affect your overall ethical behavior, ethical choice of behavior in the business? क्या लगता है आपको? Have we discussed about this? I have given you an example of this individual kind of business ethics also. Individual standards and values, like corrupt people, those who have ran away from India, looting some banks, and now they are like they are like running away from India and living in Britain and all. So individual standards and ethics. And what do you think? What are other factors which affects your ethics? I just want you to answer. What do you think can be the factors affecting your ethical choice in the business? Any relevant information you think you have about individual standards and values?
Government rule regulation.
uh, yes, definitely government rules and regulations that affects your ethical standards, right? uh, if you are aware about rules, regulations and laws of government, and what are the penalties for your specific action in the business, you will behave ethically. If you are aware, you will behave properly. अगर पता ही नहीं है सिग्नल ब्रेक करने से 200 रुपए का फाइन होता है, ये अगर पता नहीं है तो बिंदा सिग्नल तोड़ देगा बंदा, right? So his ethics would be not in a proper practice, right? If you are not aware about those things, you cannot execute those things. So having awareness about rules, regulations, and not only for government rules and regulations in the organizations, but rules, regulations of your organization also. So rules, regulations, policies, do's and don'ts in your organizations, that affects your ethical choice, isn't it? राइट क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है, कॉलेज में आके स्मोकिंग नहीं करना है, कॉलेज में आके या फिर किसी कंपनी में जाके आप स्मोक नहीं कर सकते हो, यू कैन नॉट स्मोक इन द प्रीमाइसेस ऑफ कंपनी. These do's and don'ts are the regulations put by the organization themselves, and if you are aware about those things, you will take into consideration. So your awareness is one common factor. Your awareness is one common factor which affects your ethical choice in a business, right? The individual standards and values. From where these individual standards and values come? Which is the first factor affecting your choice? Look at this orange portion, ethical, unethical choice in business. Whether you are going to do ethical business or you are going to do unethical business, that choice depends on these three factors combinedly. First is individual standards, right? First is the individual standard and values. For example, you might have seen, there are so many people, those who are misusing this technology and running e-commerce businesses where they only send, like they send either very old, used, useless product to the customers in terms of online marketing. ऑर्डर लेते हैं, पेमेंट लेते हैं, कैश ऑन डिलीवरी होता है, जो भी होता है, राइट, एंड रिटर्न के लिए कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. बहुत सारे ऐसे फ्रॉड वेबसाइट्स आते हैं, राइट? ये कहाँ से आता है? Fraud websites is something like morally acceptable or morally favorable by the society? क्या लगता है आपको? It is all about individual choice. How the individual who has got that idea uh, to fraud people, how that individual has got idea to fraud people, it's his own individual choice, right? It cannot be supported or it cannot be accepted by the society, और उसके उसके कोई भी मतलब सोशल सर्कल में भी कोई उसको सपोर्ट नहीं करेगा. फिर भी they develop the plan, they fraud people in terms of taking their money online through various applications, sending, creating the fake websites in e-commerce trading and all. So it's individual maturity, it's individual choice, it's individual standard, what kind of ethical behavior you will have or what kind of unethical behavior you will have in your business. And your individual standards comes from your ethnicity, from your culture, from your the way you have been raised up in your society, in your family, right? And समटाइम्स एक्सटर्नल थ्रेट बोलते हैं ना, बहुत सारी हिंदी मूवी में आपने देखा होगा, सर क्या बोलता है वो, पुलिस पकड़ता है किसी चोर को और वो चोर को पूछा जाता है कि क्यों तुमने ये पॉकेट मारा, तो बोलता है कि मुझे कौन सा शौक था पॉकेट मारने का, सिस्टम ने मुझे इतना लाचार बनाया कि मेरे पास मम्मी के दवाई के लिए पैसा नहीं था, खाने के लिए रोटी नहीं थी, right? So that can be also a factor which affects your individual standards and values, right? So social status, your education, your income class, maybe a knowledge, और जरूरी नहीं है, फिर पुलिस उसको डायलॉग देता है कि जरूरी नहीं कि बुरे वक्त में हमेशा तुम बुरा काम ही करोगे, तो मेहनत से कमा के भी तुम अपने प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर सकते हो, ऐसा वैसा, राइट? सो this all combined decides what kind of individual standards you will be going to have in your value system. So individual standards and values, the person who has been raised well by his society, guided by moral principles, motivated properly by his family, by his social groups, friends, relatives, and गरीब गरीब होना, जो मूवी में दिखाया जाता है ना, जो गरीबी होना है, हमेशा वो चोरी वेरी करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बहुत बहुत गरीब लोग ऐसे भी होते हैं जो ऑनेस्टली, वो होता है ना, हमारा क्या हमारे वो हीरो हमेशा बोल रहे, बहुत सारी मूवीज में हीरो बोलते हैं मेरे पापा ने किसी को जबान दिया था इसलिए मैं मेरा पूरा प्रॉपर्टी उनको छोड़ दिया और भाग गया अकेला कहीं और किसी सिटी में करियर बनाने के लिए। तो this is all about how you have been raised, how your culture has treated you, how and how external factors have made you, how your experiences have got developed based on your external factors. That particular things will decide what individual standards and values you have. If you are high, if you are a person with high moral, positive values, and good ethical standards, you will never think of doing a fraud businesses for your people, for your customers, or you will never hide something from your customers. So ethical choice in a business is something which 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 is an outcome of your individual standards and values, right? समझ में आ रहा है क्या बोल रहा हूँ मैं?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next point is managers and co-workers influences, right? Managers and co-workers influences. So this, how anyone who wants to highlight this particular thing, how do you think managers and co-workers can influence you for ethical or unethical choice of your business? How how do you think, what is the example of such particular situation? Have you ever observed? कोई rocket science नहीं है इसमें. This might have gone to your experience many times where your friends have asked you to do something unethical. Everyone has gone through that phase. We have been pushed by our friends, relatives, or like our social circle to do something which we thought as an individual is unethical, but still we did that because because we have been pushed by other people. So similar way, when you are in a business, managers and co-workers influences you for doing some unethical practices. बहुत सारी मूवीज में देखा होगा, बहुत सारे क्राइम पेट्रोल के एपिसोड्स में देखा होगा, बैंक लूटा जाता है, राइट? सिक्योरिटी वाला और मैनेजर दोनों मिलके ही प्लान बनाते हैं बैंक कैसे लूटा जाएगा, एंड दे गिव इट टू द those thieves and all, right? And then see, like you have been asked by your manager to do some unethical practice, for example to sell few units extra and not to put it in the record of company. हो सकता है, पॉसिबल है, आपको बोला जाएगा कि जब आप मार्केटिंग डिपार्टमेंट में हो, सेल्स डिपार्टमेंट में हो, do not show few units of your outcome into the records of organization, and you along with your managers sell it into the open market without knowing the company. So this is also possible that your managers, your bosses can ask you to do some unethical thing. जरूरी नहीं कि, and in peer pressure you do that, यू बोलते हैं ना हम सब सिस्टम के मारे हैं, पुलिस होते हैं ना, पुलिस पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा क्रिटिसाइज किया गया है इस चीज़ पे, राइट। हम क्या करें, हमारे बॉसेस हमको बोलते हैं तो हम करते हैं। सिमिलर वे, managers and co-workers can influence you to go for some unethical things and ethical things also, vice versa. It's not only necessary that every time your managers ask you know, to do the fraud only. Sometimes, or equally times, we can say that managers also push you to not to be unethical in the business and to be honest to your job, right? So your ethical unethical approach and support by your managers can be is supported by your manager's attitude, your workers attitude, your colleagues attitude. So it is like you being in an organization. Don't you think that if you are a very much honest person and very much ethical person, you may not do any unethical thing in the company? ऐसा मत सोचो, कभी कभी आपको करना पड़ सकता है, एंड अगेंस्ट योर ओन principles, values, you need to go for unethical practices. It is possible because of this peer pressure of your colleagues, right? And but still, in any ways, it is not acceptable, it is not justifiable that you did something because of others said. Legally, if you do, you are the one who is responsible and you will be punished for that. Not your peer pressure is going to be punished for that thing, right? जिन लोगों ने प्रेशर डाला उनको सजा नहीं होने वाली, जिन्होंने काम किया उनको सजा होने वाला है. So when we talk about ethics, values and moral principles of business, it's a sole responsibility of that individual what is going to happen, what is kind of ethical standards he is going to develop in the business, right? अब आप पूछोगे कि सर अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन आ ही गई कि अभी मेरे बॉस ने मुझे बोला कि मुझे एक तो अनइथिकल बिहेव करना पड़ेगा, you have to do some unethical work or you have to lose your job and something, what should I do in that case? So absolutely, it's a very subjective individual matter कैसे डील करना है, and it again depends on your individual standards and values. कई मूवीज में देखा होगा आपने, कितने लोग उस बंदे को, गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर को टॉर्चर करते आके तू ले पैसे ले, ये कर वो कर, उसके बेटे को उठा ले जाएंगे, उसके बेटे को उठाएंगे, मारेंगे उसको बाजार में, घर से बाहर नहीं निकलने देंगे, फिर भी वो डटा रहता है, फिर भी बोलता है मैं नहीं करूंगा पैसा, नहीं लूंगा पैसा, नहीं छोड़ूंगा तुम्हारी जमीन. बाद में वो मर जाता है, वो अलग चीज है, बट स्टिल ही डोंट डू इट बाय हिज ओन, राइट? देखा है ना मूवीज में, बहुत बार देखा होगा आपने. तो फिर कोई उसका बेटा आके उसका बदला लेगा, वो तो मूवी का पार्ट है. बट what I wanted to tell you is that it is individual's choice how much you are going to raise your standards of ethical behavior. वो फिर that comes to individual standards. आप कितने स्ट्रांग हो, आपका ethical value, ethical moral value कितना स्ट्रांग है, that will be justified by all those incidents. समझ में आ रहा है? So next is opportunity, codes and compliances requirements. Opportunity, code and compliances requirements. So as we were talking about, your organization decides what to be done in the company premises, what not to be done into company premises. So it's all about do's and don'ts list of your organization. It's all about something called as policies of employee behavior inside the company premises. Those all things affects together whether you are going to take highly ethical decision or somewhere unethical decision. So ethical unethical choice in your business depends on these three things. Not necessarily if you are, for example, let's suppose you are a person who wants to just get into business and do some frauds and earn huge money in a shortcut way, right, by doing some corruption, and you think that it is fine, it is okay, it's a smart work, like we have seen Doom movie, right? We have seen Doom movie for that matter, Doom 1 2 3 जो भी है, उन सब मूवीज में क्या किया था, they have justified how they have done bad things rightly, unethical things rightly, right? So sometimes if you get into organization with such attitude, these things can change your plans. These things can affect your outcome. You may get into the organization with such mind, but you cannot do it because of these people are not supportive to you. So your choice of being unethical or ethical is not your individual choice. It has few impact of your own individual characters, but it is also driven by these two forces together, right? Rules regulations भी होते हैं. For example, आपने सोचा है कि इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आई विल बी गोइंग टू हैव टोबैको और सिगरेट, बट ऑन a on a gate itself the SOP is given to the security person and he is strictly following his SOP. You cannot pass it through your security gate, right? It's just an example I'm putting. So though you decide to do something good or bad, these people will have impact on you. Sometimes you decide to do good, they will ask you to do bad. Sometimes you decide to behave unethical, they will help you to become ethical. So it's a mixed kind of vice and versa relationship. So these three factors affects the ethical choices of an individual in business, right? And what kind of ethical choices in your business may have, whether you are like, when you talk about this ethical and unethical choice in business, it's a very huge term. Try to understand. It's not just in terms of corruption, in terms of being ethical, in terms of framing products. What kind of products you are manufacturing, what are the impact of those products on society, जो products बना रहे वो healthy है क्या, if it is a consumable, if it is a, is it safe, it is healthy, is it valuable for customers. So business ethics is a very vast and very broad aspect and concept to understand. So हर एक function में आपका ethics, हर एक business function में your ethics will be examined, your ethics will be considered. So this way you have to think what are the factors affecting and what are the factors which influences your business ethics. Okay, any doubt? Any doubt till now?
No, sir.
सो गए क्या सब लोग? चलने दो बोलना अपना क्लास अपनी तरीके से. हम लोग है यहाँ पे, एक दो लोग हैं जो एक्टिव हैं.
No, sir.
ओके, चलो ठीक है, गुड. इफ यू आर लिसनिंग वेल एंड गुड, इफ नॉट बेस्ट, राइट? सुनोगे तो अच्छा है, नहीं सुनोगे तो और अच्छा है, क्योंकि नहीं सुनोगे तो पता ही नहीं क्या हुआ, क्यों टेंशन लेने. सुनोगे तो थोड़ा सा टेंशन लेना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि पता नहीं कभी भी, और सोचना भी पड़ेगा ना. कुछ सुनोगे तो सोचोगे अच्छा है, बुरा है, सही है, गलत है, क्या बोल रहा है, क्यों बोल रहा है. सुनोगे तो सोचना पड़ेगा, मतलब सुनोगे तो अच्छा है, नहीं सुनोगे तो और अच्छा है, क्योंकि नहीं सुनोगे तो फिर टेंशन ही नहीं. So fine. Next point of your syllabus is, actually this is in alliance with the previous thing only. What are the factors influencing into business? These things we have seen in a broader level, right? In a broader level. Now let's talk about the functional level, right? Functional level, what are the factors? Leadership. This is again here, managers and co-workers. It's a one and similar thing. It is concept, it is application, right? So who can affect leadership? If your leadership itself is a unethical group, is a group of unethical people, what do you expect from your employees to be done in the business, right? अगर आप खुद ही 2 नंबर के धंधे में लगा हुआ है आपका लीडरशिप, आपका कंपनी, तो आपके एम्प्लॉइज कौन सा 1 नंबर कर पाएंगे, राइट? वो तो डुप्लीकेट ही काम करना पड़ेगा उनको, राइट? इफ यू आर प्रोड्यूसिंग fake products, if you are producing the pirated products, right? What you will expect from your people. So leadership attitude decides about what is going to happen in your business and what kind of business ethics you will have. So influence of your leadership, individual character, we have discussed about that. Corporate culture, we have also discussed about that in terms of rules, regulation, policies, belief system of organizations, vision, mission of an organization, that all comes into the corporate culture, right? if the vision mission of your organization is very much clear, that in any case we are not going to compromise on the ethical values, on the betterment of your stakeholders, then absolutely managers has to take decisions. Manager has to work according to these visions and missions, right? So corporate culture is something which has very high impact on the ethical standard of your business. So ethical standard of Tata's is nowhere compared in by any company in India, right? Ethically, Tatas are very much high, at very much high level. So corporate culture of Tata is highly ethical corporate culture. So Tata का job को government job बोला जाता है, right? If you get a payroll job of Tata company, it is nowhere less than the government. You will get all possible support from the company. So corporate culture and personal code of conduct. Personal code of conduct is individual's choice. So this is nothing but one and the same thing we have discussed. Personal choice, corporate culture, and managerial behavior, managerial attitude, right? So these three things affects your business. Next is something, the categories of ethics. As I was talking to you that in every company you have three categories, right? Personal ethics, professional ethics, managerial ethics. So when you talk about personal ethics, it's all about your individual belief system. It's all about your individual वैल्यू सिस्टम. संस्कार जो बोला जाता है ना इंडियन हिंदी लैंग्वेज में, बच्चे पे कैसे संस्कार हुए हैं, उन संस्कारों के ऊपर डिपेंड है कि हाउ ही इज गोइंग टू बिहेव. सो दैट इज ऑल अबाउट योर पर्सनल एथिक्स. See, few people are very much bold, very much uh, like casual in approach. They always have a behavior in is like never serious or never into the main line in the sense main line of the thought process and main line of the function of that organization. वो मेन लाइन में कभी होते ही नहीं है, वो अपनी अपनी दुनिया में ही मस्त होते हैं. लाइक दे नो दैट वट एवर some people always say that my life's my rules, right? So it is nowhere like your life your rules. It is not possible. If you think that your life your rules, go and break the signal. You will get to know that whose life and whose rules are there, right? So personal ethics, or you do something which is against the law and you will get to know that whose rules are there and whose life is there. So personal ethics is something that how we have developed our own value system, how we have considered what are our moral roles and responsibilities as a good citizen, as a good corporate citizen we can call ourselves. If you are working in a company, you are not less than a corporate citizen, you are a corporate citizen. Like and what is, when you talk about the citizen is as a normal citizen, an Indian citizen, what are few, there are few responsibilities you have, there are few rights you have as per the constitution, right? Similarly, when you are a corporate citizen in some company, you have some code of conduct given by the company, you have some authorities and responsibilities given by the company. So personal ethics is all about your code of conduct. Personal ethics is all about how you develop your value system, how you develop your belief system. I mean, whether it's a kind of spiritual behavior, whether it's a kind of there are three things in behavior if you talk about spirituality: uh, uh, sattva, tamas, and rajas behavior is there, right? Sattva, tamas, and rajas. Sattva is something uh, which is a very spiritual and rishi kind of behavior, right? Uh, Rajas is something like king. You are desperate enough and you are in a vision of expanding your business and your profile and all. So you are a desperate person. And when you talk about tamas, tamas guni people are described like a people those who are like demons. राक्षस पता है ना आप लोगों को, एविल्स. एविल्स नहीं बोल सकते, डेमॉन्स. तो राक्षस सब लोगों को पता है, तामस गुणी लोगों को राक्षस लोगों के जैसे बोला जाता है. तो आपने भी देखे होंगे, इन सब नेचर के लोग आपने देखे होंगे. देखो कभी कभी क्या होता है क्लास में या फिर कंपनी के ग्रुप में हमेशा क्या होता है, एक टीम में 8-10 लोग एक अच्छे से काम करते, 2-3 लोग ऐसे होते हैं ना, कभी पता नहीं वो दारू पी के आएगा, लंबे लंबे बाल बढ़ाएगा, कबीर सिंह बनने का कोशिश करेगा. देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स, राइट? So categories of ethics: your personal ethics, your professional ethics, your managerial ethics. Personal ethics is about your own personality. Personal ethics is about how you behave as a citizen. That is personal ethics. Professional ethics: how do you follow your Professional ethics in the sense, how do you follow your code of conduct required in that particular profession. For example, I, as a faculty coming to the RIM Institute, what should be my personal ethics and professional ethics? My personal ethics is kind of personality I bear, the kind of attitude I come in the institute, and the way of communication with the people in my group, in my class, in my institute. that can that can be my personal ethics, like how I am behaving with the people. And like, do I do it with the integrity, honesty? Do I do it with the most sincerity? That is about personal ethics. So when I talk about professional ethics, is all about, am I being disciplined? Am I coming on time daily? Am I starting my classes on time? Am I talking the sensible content in my classes? Do I treat my students with dignity? Do I use any slang or unparliamentary language in the classes? Do I treat my people with their own space, dignity, and respect? That's what can be a kind of professional ethics for me, right? समझ में आ रहा है प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स क्या है? मैं मेरा काम अपने तरीके से कर रहा हूँ क्या, प्रिस्क्राइब्ड तरीके से कर रहा हूँ क्या, कर रहा हूँ या नहीं कर रहा हूँ? दैट इज प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स, राइट? मेरा प्रिस्क्राइब तरीका क्या है? आई शुड स्टार्ट माई सेशन, आई शुड नेवर मिस माई सेशन, आई शुड टॉक द सेंसिबल थिंग्स ओनली इन द सेशन। नहीं तो मैंने लिया इंडियन इथोस का सेशन और शुरू हो गया, मैं क्या चल रहा है अभी शिल्पा शेट्टी के घर में, राजकुंद्रा का क्या चल रहा है, मैं आपको आके पूछनी शुरू कर दिया। यू पीपल विल एंजॉय इट लाइक अ हिल, राइट? मैं अगर वो टॉपिक पे बात करना शुरू कर दूंगा तो आप लोग है चढ़ा बढ़ा के पार्टिसिपेट करोगे, मतलब किसी को टाइम पूरेगा नहीं बात करने के लिए। इफ आई टेल यू, इफ आई आस्क यू लाइक व्हाट इज द लेटेस्ट ट्रेंड एंड व्हाट आर द लेटेस्ट फोटोशूट डन बाय दिस, क्या है वो, जॉकी श्रॉफ का बेटा और उसकी गर्लफ्रेंड, तो आप लोग फटाफट फटाफट शुरू हो जाएंगे। सर ये तो ऐसा हुआ, लेटेस्ट न्यूज ऐसी आई है कि जॉकी श्रॉफ का एक दिन दिवाला निकल गया था, तो ये इधर सो गए थे, इधर उधर ऐसा किया था, ये बेच दिया, वो घर बेच दिया। So your general knowledge would be like floating like anything, but that's not what I expect to do in the classes, right? So that's my professional ethics. Am I doing my job up to the mark? Am I doing it in the way whatever I am expected to do? तो आप अगर सेल्स टीम में हो, आपको कोल्ड कॉलिंग करने के लिए बोला है, 20 कोल्ड कॉल रोज के करने हैं, you have to visit 20 of your customers daily, and like you are doing it for 6 people, and then you are creating a dummy documents, fake documents, you are showing the fake calls, right? In most of the times in summer internship, you might have, some of you might have done also this particular thing. क्या किया हमने, हमको क्या, हम घर वालों के 5-6 लोगों के नाम लिख दिए, किसको कॉल किया, इसको कॉल किया, क्या बोला, ये बोला, ऐसे घर वाले के 10-12 नाम लिख दिए, फर्स्ट नेम को सेम लिखा, जो है वो एक्चुअल में और लास्ट नेम चेंज करके उसका राज खन्ना सिन्हा जोड़ दिया। So that is the professional ethics, and this happens, I'm telling you very basic example, but this happens everywhere. The example, if you want to take for the professional ethics, you can take the example of that, who was the Cyrus Mistry wala case, right? It is just one moment of professional ethics he could not follow in the board meeting, and he has out of the chairman of that Tata group, Tata Sons, right? क्या किया था वो आप देख लो, I don't want to get into controversial topics, but एक चीज में मिस्टेक किया था, and he has not followed his professional ethics. He has diverted some funds, he has invested some funds in some different venue. पढ़ लेना आप लोग क्या केस है, गूगल पे बहुत सारा मटेरियल अवेलेबल है, बहुत सारे डायमेंशन का मटेरियल अवेलेबल है. So that's how this thing can affect, right? So personal ethics, professional ethics, managerial ethics. Managerial ethics is something like you as a manager is a responsible person to handle a group of people. You are a decision maker, right? You are a change maker, you are an influencer in the role of managerial. So while being a managerial, while being at a managerial position, what do you think that what kind of ethics you should follow? क्या है? आप सब मैनेजर बनने वाले हो, बताओ मुझे जरा। फोर्थ सेमेस्टर में हो, मोस्ट ऑफ यू माइट हैव स्टार्टेड वर्किंग आल्सो, या फिर जॉब करने की कोशिश में हो गया। व्हाट आर द मैनेजरल एथिक्स? कैन यू लिस्ट इट आउट? 4-5 पॉइंट बता सकते हो आप लोग मुझे? 4-5 पॉइंट्स यू कैन टेल मी। व्हाट आर द मैनेजरल एथिक्स? नहीं बता सकते हो तो एमबीए करके कोई मतलब नहीं है, फिर आपका एमबीए ऐसे ही हुआ, पेपर पे हुआ, राइट?
Sir, sir,
यस डेफिनेटली।
sir, first you communicate with your team members, motivate,
Ethics,
manage how to work in a corporate world.
these are the functions, right? These are the functions. I am asking you, what are the ethical aspect of his job? मैनेजर का जॉब कर, जब आप मैनेजर का जॉब कर रहे हो तब आप इथिकल कैसे हो और इथिकल कैसे, अनइथिकल कैसे हो, इथिकल या अनइथिकल कैसे हो, ये कैसे डिसाइड हो जाएगा? विच आर द पैरामीटर्स ऑफ योर इथिक्स इन मैनेजरल जॉब? एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, मैनेजर शुड नेवर बी पार्शियल. So partiality can be a parameter on which managerial ethics can be measured. क्या है partiality? Manager should be honest and integrated to the organization. For example, आप किसी कंपनी का सेल्स मैनेजर हो, you are, let's suppose you are a sales manager of JCB. JCB, you know, excavators, Pockland machines and JCB जो बनाता है, और आपके पास 10 कस्टमर आए, उसमें से आपने 6 कस्टमर JCB को दिया, 4 कस्टमर Hyundai कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी को दिया, right? What is that? It means you are not following your professional ethics in managerial position. You are a decision maker there, but you are sending your customers to your competitors, diverting customers to your competitors. So you are not integrated in that case. You are not integrated to your organization. Your integrity is at the stake, right? So partiality, integrity, honesty, uh, dealing dealing with your people in a human aspect, human way, right? Humanity. These are few ethical points that managers need to understand. Managers needs to keep in mind while they are behaving in the organization, right? Again, if let's suppose आप सिर्फ किसी मैनेजर के चमचे बन नहीं पा रहे हो, इसलिए उसने आपको जॉब से इसलिए उसने आपका अप्राइजल रोक दिया, right? Is the ethical behavior of that manager? Making appraisal was his responsibility, was his authority. But even though you have functioned very well in your job, you were enough effective in your job, you have not received an appraisal which has been according to the rules and regulations of your company because of managerial recommendation. And why he does that? He does that because you are not getting into his uh, like to his side in behave in your organization, in your job and in your team, right? So आप सिर्फ उनकी बातें सुनते नहीं हो, उनके चमचेगिरी नहीं करते हो, इसलिए वो आपको कम अप्रिशिएट कर देगा, इसलिए वो आपको डिवैल्यूएट कर देगा. दैट इज समथिंग वेयर मैनेजरियल एथिक्स कम इनटू पिक्चर. आएगा कि नहीं आप बताओ, होगा कि नहीं ऐसा? मैनेजरियल एथिक्स क्या है? आप मैनेजर हो इसलिए आप किसी को जानबूझ के क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हो. फॉर एग्जांपल, बीइंग पार्शियल ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन, बीइंग पार्शियल ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रेसिज्म, राइट? लाइक कोई किसी कास्ट का है या कोई किसी रिलीजन का है, इसलिए आप उसका अप्राइजल ज्यादा नहीं कर रहे हो. यू आर नॉट प्रोमोटिंग द इंडिविजुअल बिकॉज ऑफ ही इज फ्रॉम सम अदर caste, breed or religion. So isn't it against the managerial ethics? Right? You have to understand those categories of ethics, and you have to take care of the requisites of all these three categories combinedly, right? You have to take care of all these categories, requisites of all these categories combinedly in your job. Then you will say that you are doing your job ethically, right? Personal ethics to chahiye, like how you believe, how you behave, how much uh, you are a good human being, how much you know about what is right and wrong in the society. That is about personal ethics. Professionally, how much you are pro to your work, how much honestly, sincerely, dedicatedly, legally you are doing your job, right? Doing your job legally and as per your job description is very much important, right? So being in the class, being in the college, I am the one, I should be the one who never uses any unparliamentary words for my students, right? So isn't it expected from my professional behavior? Am I following that? Is something, is my professional ethics. Being a manager or like being a boss of a team, I should not be partial, I should not be favorite, like I should not create any favoritism, I should not have any personal relationships with my teammates. फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये मेरा माना हुआ भाई है, बहन है, कोई गर्लफ्रेंड है, बॉयफ्रेंड है, इसलिए मैं उनको प्रमोट कर दिया मेरी टीम में। तो मेरे माने हुए भाई बहन, इज इट द थिंग फॉर विच कंपनी हायर्ड यू इन अ मैनेजरल पोजीशन? भाई बहन का रिश्ता बनाने के लिए आए थे क्या आप जॉब में, ऑफिस में? दैट्स व्हाट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. So developing no personal relationships in your job profile is something a managerial ethics. होता है ना, आपने टीम ज्वाइन कर लिया, बहुत बार आपकी अच्छी फ्रेंडशिप हो गई तो आप आपके मैनेजर के लाइक ब्रदर फ्रॉम अनदर मदर बन गए, तो क्या होगा? ऐसा होता नहीं कभी. देयर इज नो समथिंग called brother from another mother in professional world. Everyone is competitors of everyone, right? You are close competitors of each and everyone. Let's suppose you and your best friend are sitting for a placement. Are you going to sacrifice in interview by not answering few questions yourself, though you know the answers, for your friend? I don't think so. So that's the way you can understand these three categories of ethics. Clear? समझ में आ रहा है? Yes, no? Any difficulty? Sohail?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Clear? Okay. And the next point is about approaches to business ethics, right? What are the approaches? Do you know what is the meaning of approach? I think on your fourth semester, I am taking this session for like, I have not taken any other subject on your fourth semester. Third semester में कुछ subject लिया था क्या मैंने? No, I don't think so. Right? So, do you know what do you mean by approaches? Because I always clear the meaning of these words. What do you mean by approach? What do you mean by scope? What do you mean by applications, implementations, importance? मतलब पता होना चाहिए. Approach का मतलब क्या है? What do you mean by approach? Approaches to ethics. It means what? It means, can you tell me? किसी को बोलना है? What do you mean by approaches to ethics? What are your approaches to your MBA?
So something request or proposal.
Something?
Request or proposal.
Okay, something related to request or proposal or purpose?
Yeah.
Not exactly. Approach means the way how you achieve those things, right? The way how you achieve those things, the way how you reach to something, the way how you reach to something. What is your approach to become a good manager? What is your approach to become a good manager? So you will say that first of all I will complete my MBA, then I will get a work experience of 2-3 years from a reputed organization, and then I will become a good manager, right? So approach is nothing but what are the ways, what are the steps, what are the milestones that you need to follow to reach towards something. So if you want to set up your business ethics at higher level, if you want to set up your business ethics at higher level, what are those things you need to take into consideration to develop higher business ethics? and what are the approaches, how you reach, what are the methods, what are the practices you will do. So there are few, like conventional approach. Conventional approach is like based on the common societies and today's view. Conventional approach of everything. See, for example, uh, conventional approach talks about the orthodox. Conventional approach talks about the traditional ways of setting up your standards at higher level. And traditional way क्या है, सबको बताओ, मतलब अगर आपके मोरल, आपके खुद के इथिकल वैल्यूज अच्छे लेवल पे, आपके आप पे अगर अच्छे संस्कार करने वाले, तो आपके पेरेंट्स क्या करते हैं, व्हाट योर पेरेंट्स डज टू गेट यू अ गुड वैल्यू सिस्टम एंड गुड बिलीफ सिस्टम्स, कैसे करते हैं, संस्कार कैसे करते हैं, दुनिया के साथ कंपेयर करके ही बताते हैं ना, राइट? अच्छा करोगे तो ऐसा होगा, ऐसा बिहेव करोगे तो वैसा होगा, दे कंपेयर विथ the existing social good and bad things which are going to happen with you based on your value system, right? So conventional approach is nothing but when you are into the business, conventionally what, ट्रेडिशनली पीछे लोगों ने क्या किया है, बाकी की कंपनी ने जो फॉलो किया है, सोसाइटी ने जो रिकमेंड किया है, वो सब चीजें आप कन्वेंशनली अच्छे किया करो. कन्वेंशनल वे इज नथिंग बट द ट्रेडिशनल वे, ट्रेडिशनल अप्रोच और हिस्टोरिकल अप्रोच. जो लोगों ने किया वो करो, दूसरों को देख के अपना अच्छा सिस्टम बनाइए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हाउ द एप्पल एंड आईफोन आर डूइंग वेल इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, इन द सेल फोन मार्केट. By looking towards them, you will develop a few milestones of your organizations by which you can set up the higher value. For example, बाकी जो भी कंपनीज है उन सबने टाटा को देख के, टाटा को देख के अपना वर्क कल्चर बनाने का कोशिश करना, दैट इज कन्वेंशनल अप्रोच बेस्ड ऑन हाउ कॉमन सोसाइटी व्यूज टुडेज बिजनेस एथिक्स एंड व्हाट इज द कॉमन सेंस. लाइक कस्टमर के लिए बुरा नहीं करना चाहिए, कस्टमर से हमेशा अच्छा बिहेव करना चाहिए, वी शुड थिंक फॉर द बेटरमेंट ऑफ योर कस्टमर्स एंड एम्प्लॉइज. ये तो कॉमन बिलीफ सिस्टम्स है ना, ट्रेडिशनल अंडरस्टैंडिंग है. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स इफ यू follow those common traditional understandings and systems, you will succeed because it has been proven by somebody else, it has been justified, executed by somebody else, and you can assure that if they can do this particular thing, then why not me? So conventionally, being high at ethical and moral values in a business is one approach. उसके लिए कोई स्ट्रैटेजी बनाने का जरूरत नहीं है, कुछ नया ज्ञान लाने का जरूरत नहीं है, बिजनेस में कुछ नहीं करना है, वही करो जो आज तक लोग बिलीव करते आए हुए हैं. दैट इज व्हाट इज कन्वेंशनल अप्रोच. वही करो what has been believed by many business organizations till now. So it's a traditional conventional approach, right? Principal approach is something where you are going to derive few statements, few principles, few uh, few actions by which you will ensure that by doing that particular thing, you will be approaching higher business standards in terms of business ethics, right? So it's based upon the use of ethical principles to justify and direct your behavior, actions and policies. So you create your policies in such a way, you give few principles to your team, your company, your stakeholders, right? For example, if we talk about let's take an example of like any Indian manufacturer, right? Principal approach, you let's suppose never compare to the quality, sorry, never compromise on the quality. अगर आप कोई मैन्युफैक्चरर हो और आप एक प्रिंसिपल रखते हो, never compromise on the quality of products, it's a principle of your organization, right? So you can set up such principle and then all the people will run behind to achieve that principle. अगर वो प्रिंसिपल को अचीव करने की कोशिश करेंगे तो अपने आप वो इथिकल रहेंगे, राइट? नेवर कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन द क्वालिटी मतलब क्या? यू कैन नॉट यूज एनी cheap kind of raw material, or you cannot use any kind of harmful material into the products. So your principle itself makes your employees to behave ethically, right? So setting up few things like that in your organization, setting up principles, setting up few standards, benchmarking of few standards will help you to achieve the higher business ethics. And then ethical taste approach, it means You can take the tests of your employees based on the short practical questions or to guide ethical decision making and behavior in the practice. You take the ethical test of your employees, stakeholders, customers, and your people in the company. For example, how would you take the ethical test? How would you take the ethical test? You can do it in a practical way or you can do it in a theoretical way. If you want to achieve a theoretical way, give them a questionnaire, ask them some tricky questions, ask them some situation based questions, and ask them answers through various case studies in your business. एग्जाम्पल, एक क्वेश्चन ऐसा लिखो, अगर आप सेल्स करने मार्केट में गए हो और सामने वाले बंदे ने बोला कि ठीक है मैं आपका ऑर्डर लेता हूँ 5000, लेट्स सपोज मेडिसिन सेल 5000 बॉटल मैं आपसे लेता हूँ, 5000 बॉटल्स का ऑर्डर देता हूँ आपको, बट बदले में आप एक काम करो, मेरा जो स्टॉक पड़ा हुआ है किसी और कंपनी का, वो मुझे आप मार्केट में सेल करा के दो दूसरे 5000 बॉटल का, राइट, कॉम्पिटिटर्स का। तो इस सिचुएशन में आप क्या करोगे बीइंग एन एम्प्लॉय? तो गिव सच ट्रिकी सिचुएशंस टू टेक द एथिकल टेस्ट ऑफ योर एम्प्लॉइज। तो वहां पे क्या करना चाहिए? अभी उसने 5000 का ऑर्डर देना चाहिए, वो बचा हुआ माल पास आउट करने का कोशिश करवाना चाहिए, वो 5000 बॉटल सेल करवाने की कोशिश करना सही है, गलत है, इथिकल है, अनइथिकल है, व्हाट इज दैट? So let your employees decide through such questions. It's a very tricky situation, I told you, but you may have few smaller kind of questions, test and situational analysis for your employees to understand how much they are ethical, and by which you can ensure that your ethical standards of organization. So how you approach to understand, develop and implement higher ethical standards in the business is depend on these three things. इसके और भी तरीके हो सकते हैं, साइंटिफिक इवेल्यूशन, क्वांटिटेटिव इवेल्यूशन ऑफ योर एम्प्लॉयज इन द बिजनेस। सो वो भी याद रखो, व्हाट इज साइंटिफिक इवेल्यूशन, व्हाट इज क्वांटिटेटिव इवेल्यूशन, ये सब चीजें आप याद रखना चाहिए, राइट? सो रिमेंबर दोस थिंग्स एंड बाय डूइंग दिस थ्री थिंग्स यू कैन अचीव हायर स्टैंडर्ड इन द बिजनेस। एनी डिफिकल्टी? Any difficulty?
No, sir.
Understood? What are the approaches? Conventional approach, principal approach, and ethical test approach. No questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So see, these are things which comes under the approaches in a practical implementation. आप practically कर सकते हो, right? But when you talk on the philosophical level, what are the approaches to your business? In intellectual way, in intellectual aspects, you will have consequentialist approach and non-consequentialist approach, right? So consequentialist approach and non-consequentialist approach. You will have the employees in your organization, few of the employees in your organization, those are always creating some consequences, those who are always creating some issues, those who are always creating some criticism. So you as a manager or you as a business owner, if you yourself is a person who is always optimistic to get solutions for your consequences, you are optimistic to get the solutions for your consequences, right? So if you want to set up the higher level of ethics in your business, you should be consequentialist. You should be consequentialist. Matlab, you should be a person who is worried about the results, who is worried about the outcomes. Consequentialist means रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड बोला जाता है इसको इंग्लिश में। हिंदी में एक वर्ड है परिणामवादी, समझ में नहीं आएगा आपको, या फिर देख लेना, परिणामवादी मतलब रिजल्ट क्या आने वाला है, परिणाम क्या होने वाला है, वॉट एवर द इम्पैक्ट यू आर गोइंग टू क्रिएट थ्रू योर एक्शंस, राइट? यू मे हैव एन अप्रोच ऑलवेज लुकिंग आफ्टर द इम्पैक्ट। सो हमेशा ये अप्रोच रखो कि आउटकम क्या होगा, बिजनेस डिसीजन लेने के टाइम पे अप्रोच ये रखो कि आउटकम क्या होने वाला है. बेस्ड ऑन दैट अप्रोच यू मे सेट अप द हायर इथिकल वैल्यूज इन योर बिजनेस. बिकॉज आप अगर आउटकम्स के बारे में पहले ही सोचोगे तो you will never try to get some things done which are not appropriately explained in your business, which are not suitable for your business, right? So consequentialist is approach, non-consequentialist is again an approach which affects your business ethics. So non-consequentialist people are those, वो सोचते नहीं है, डिसीजन लेना है ले लो, देख लेंगे, जो होना है होने दो. नेचुरल, दे फॉलो द नेचुरल लॉ, right? They follow the natural law. And non-consequentialist people don't want to hurt someone or don't want to disrespect someone by overcoming their decision. They don't want to get into argue. मतलब हमेशा होता है ना, किसी कंपनी में आप जाते हो तो बॉस होता है ना, जो बॉस बोले वही सही है, जाने दो, हमको क्या करना है, बॉस ने बोला है कर दो. दैट इज नॉन कॉन्सिक्वेंशियलिस्ट. हमको क्या करना है, बॉस ने बोला है करना है करो, राइट? So that can also be approach to set up your standards, ethical standards. बॉस ने बोला है वो करो, is it a most ethical way to do your job? अगर बॉस ने बोला है करो, वो गलत भी बोलता है तो करना है, is it an ethical way? Absolutely, it's not an ethical way of doing your job, right? So that can also be approach, so which affects your ethics negatively. Non-consequentialist approach affects your ethical standard negatively, which reduces, right? Sometimes it may help you to boost your ethics also. कैसे? बॉस ने बोला है, आपको लगा, मैनेजर ने बोल दिया है काम करना है, करने दो, और who knows, you did it at the par, at the excellent level. ऐसे भी हो सकता है, खुद का दिमाग ना लगाने का फायदा भी हो सकता है ना कभी कभी. तो अप्रोचेस कैन बी आइदर वे, दोनों भी चीजों का साइड इफेक्ट है, दोनों भी चीजों का पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट है. सो नॉन कॉन्सिक्वेंशियलिस्ट रहोगे, that also can be approached to get higher ethics, क्योंकि being non-consequentialist it means you are having full trust on your manager, you are having 100% trust on your boss. वो जो बोलता है वो सही है, वो कर दो. It is applicable into the armed forces, right? वो सोचते ही नहीं है, and it is creating a very high moral and ethical outcome in the armed forces. and वो अगर consequentialist बन जाएगा, वहां पे बॉस ने बोला है तुमको एलओसी के उधर जाके सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक करके रिटर्न आना है, वो अगर वो सोचने लगा कि क्या होगा, इंटरनेशनल का परिणाम क्या होगा, पाकिस्तान क्या करेगा, हम वापस कैसे आएंगे, जाना कैसे, आना कैसे, क्वेश्चन क्रिएट करते बैठा और बॉस का डिसीजन लेना नहीं लिया तो क्या होगा? तो बीइंग consequentialist help you in something and it may be negatively affecting you in some ways. So दोनों भी अप्रोच हो सकते हैं, दोनों के अपने अपने एडवांटेजेस है, अपने अपने डिसएडवांटेजेस है, राइट? सो नॉन कॉन्सिक्वेंशियलिस्ट पीपल believes on management, believes on bosses, takes the decision and execute whatever has been told to them without asking any question. They go with the flow, they follow the natural law, they respect the upper level people. Inconsequentialist, these are the like egoistic people. Sometimes this is egoistic approach, because अरे उसने बोला है जाओ बॉर्डर के पार जाके आओ, उसको क्या जाता है बोलने में, जाना तो हमको है, हम मर गए तो क्या करने का, राइट? तो that can be also approach, but sometimes this approach will also help. अगर ये सोचेगा बंदा तो सोचने के बाद क्या अच्छा होगा क्या बुरा होगा ये सोचेगा, और बुराई को हाईलाइट करके उसके पॉइंट्स निगेटिव करके काम करेगा, तो this consequentialist approach will also help you, right? So being consequentialist matlab people are not ready to accept the decisions given by the bosses without criticizing them or without evaluating them. वो evaluate करते हैं, right? वो नेचर थोड़ा egoistic होता है उनका, right? So next aspect of being consequentialist is utilitarianism, right? Utilitarianism मतलब उसके यूज क्या होना है, उसकी यूटिलिटी कितनी है, व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ एक्शन वी आर टेकिंग इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. अगर हमने कुछ डिसीजन लिया, हमको कुछ करने के लिए बोला, राइट? तो वो करने से हमारा फायदा कितना होने वाला है, वो इवेल्युएट करने वाला जो अप्रोच होता है वो होता है कॉन्सिक्वेंशियलिस्ट एंड यूटिलिटेरियनिज्म अप्रोच. सो something This Hinduism. Hinduism is like, this particular word is bit complex to understand, but try to understand this. This talks about the human nature, right? So it talks about the human psychology. Hinduism is, it talks about human psychology. Are you going to enjoy, are you going to take a pleasure to do whatever has been told by your management? That is called as hedonism. आपको जो बोला है वो करने में अच्छा रहेगा क्या? हम बोलते हैं ना, हम हमेशा बोलते हैं आप वही काम करो जिसमें आपको खुशी मिले, बट नॉट पॉसिबल एवरी टाइम, राइट? अगर आप हेडोनिज्म अप्रोच के साथ उसको देखते हैं, कॉन्सिक्वेंशियलिस्ट अप्रोच के साथ इथिकल वैल्यूज से कंपेयर करते हो, तो these are the people those who are always pro to only work if they enjoy it, if they wants to love to do that, right? So then only they will understand and do that particular task. Intellectualism is something which talks about intellectualism is something which talks about what is the value addition in their own profile, what is the value addition in the company profile. क्या होगा कंपनी का प्रोफाइल में, वैल्यू एडिशन कितना हो पाएगा, राइट? अगर वैल्यू एडिशन नहीं होता है तो वो काम क्यों करने का? व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ डूइंग दैट वर्क? ये सब चीजें सोचने वाले जो लोग होते हैं वो होते हैं द पीपल दोज हु आर इंटेलेक्चुअल in nature. They thinks of intellectuality. Actually, you remember these two words only: consequentialist and non-consequentialist approach. Consequentialist approach thinks of the outcome of actions taken in the organizations. Non-consequentialist thinks doesn't think about the outcomes of the actions taken by the decision. जो करना है वो कर लेगा, खत्म करो के साथ, right? Next is Judaism, right? Judaism is again a broader aspect of human psychology. This Judaism is something which consequentialist people always thinks of. वो हमेशा ये सोचते रहते हैं कि हम जो कर रहे हैं उसको ब्रॉडर एस्पेक्ट पे ह्यूमैनिटी को क्या फायदा होगा? विल इट बी हेल्पफुल फॉर द लार्जर society? Will it be helpful for the people to develop their life? Will it be helpful people to flourish their living standard? That way these people thinks, this consequentialist people thinks. So consequentialist people means a complex personality which मैनेजमेंट फंडामेंटल्स सब्जेक्ट में आपको एक पॉइंट था विच वाज रिलेटेड टू साइंटिफिक डिसीजन मेकिंग, अगर आपको याद आ रहा है तो. So these are the people those who thinks of doing business based on the scientific decision making process. ये कौन है साइंटिफिक डिसीजन वाले? ये कौन है नॉन साइंटिफिक डिसीजन वाले? ये बोलते हैं सब तोल मोल के डिसीजन लो. तो अगर तोल मोल के काम करोगे तो भी आपके डिसीजन हाई, बिजनेस एथिक्स हाई हो सकते हैं, प्रोवाइडेड इंटेंशन, व्हाट इंटेंशन योर पीपल मैटर्स. डू दे यूज दिस इगोइज्म, this contradiction, these arguments in a constructive criticism, or they use it just to hold the work, right? So consequentialist people भी काम के होते हैं if they have a good intention to criticize. Criticize करोगे, बोलते हैं ना अच्छी डिबेट करने वाला, कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिस्कशन और कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिसएग्रीमेंट वाला बंदा हमेशा टीम में चाहिए, क्योंकि ही शोज यू what are the negative aspect of that particular decision of that particular function in the business. So negative को highlight करने वाला, but उसका intention सही होना चाहिए, नहीं तो he is only highlighting negative points and holding everything there, and the things are not moving in organization. He is become a person because of whom the work is getting stuck. तो अटका के रखने वाला criticism नहीं चाहिए. Constructive criticism with solution, that is consequentialist approach of setting up your business ethics at higher level. आ रहा है कुछ दिमाग में? ये वर्ड स्क्रीनशॉट करके देखो, डिक्शनरी मीनिंग निकालो, पढ़ो, गेट अ ब्रॉडर एस्पेक्ट अंडरस्टूड. एनी डिफिकल्टी? कोई है ही नहीं बोलना, काय का डिफिकल्टी? चलो, I'll stop here. Thank you so much for your time. कितने लोग हैं? 7 ही लोग हैं, मतलब 2-3 लोग और भी गए कहीं, very important task they might have. Okay, thank you so much. All the best to you all.